Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi friends, how are you? I hope you're in good health and secure. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your support. Links below in the description. Even if all you can do is like and subscribe, it's a meritorious act in that it helps expand the Sangha, and that is Bodhisattva work. I don't know if I should start with this or see if I save it, try to save it for late when we close the video. My brain, I'll forget. We're in the midst of the 18th chapter of the Lotus Sutra. Merits of joyful acceptance. It's really, the Lotus Sutra is now shifting into, okay, I'm done beating you over the head with what you haven't seemed to perceive for 40 years. Now this is it. This is the ultimate teaching. This is what you do. This is how you behave. This is how you practice. This is how you immediately invoke your Buddha realm. Do it. Just do it. It's there. It's already there. Just invoke it. Enliven it. Invest in it. Accept it. Understand it. Right? This is the lotus. And now, for these later chapters, we're going to explore expectation. What does it mean to do this? How does that look to do this? What can you expect in your perceiving mind to change in this Saha world as you enlighten your mind? And for Nichiren, we have clearly written instruction to emulate him. He sees himself throughout many go-shows, certainly after his, I was going to say deportment, his exiles, to Ito and then to Sado. He wrote about how he saw a lot of his behavior, whether he was not forced into it, but whether his life seemed to embody the very things that he was reading about in the Lotus about the leaders of the Bodhisattvas of the earth. I mean, he saw a very strong mirror in his environment of the teachings for his own life, right? And he pointed that out as a kind of a proof to himself, but a proof to himself that he shared with his students, disciples, entourage, as if to say, this is what it looks like to practice Lotus Sutra Buddhism correctly. If you have any doubts or any, not so much doubts, but if you find yourself in any situation wondering, what should I do? How should I behave? How do I handle this? Use my life as a template. Do as I do. Live your life as I have lived, with this kind of conviction and resolve and confidence. And rely, do as I do, Nichiren, do as I do, as I go to the teachings themselves. I don't have to invent any kind of justification for doing this correctly. Just read it. It's really obvious, right? That's Nichiren. And Nichiren is telling you and telling me to do exactly as he did. He told this to his followers, and he's telling it to us. He's our mentor, right? And recently, I think I did it in more than one video, but I really remember it from the last one, where I said, you need to ask yourself, what would Nichiren do? And then I heard myself say that, and I thought, oh man, that's a cliche of a whole other thing, right? But I can't, I'm a bit of a clown, and I can't help but Maybe I should put that on my Cafe Press site, in one of the Quoon stores. Maybe I should have some kind of a key fob or not a T-shirt. I think that's a little bit much, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's in poor taste. Having a WWND like bracelet or a leash or something. What would Nichiren do? What does WWND mean? What would Nichiren do? What's that about? Oh, it's a Buddhist thing. Maybe that would be a great tool for a conversation started about Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Maybe that's what it should say. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I don't know. It's a little bit like advertising, isn't it? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Is that like over the line, doing something like that? I have bookmarks available online with Threefold Lotus Quoon and how to pronounce the Daimoku and a little blurb. I was worried about doing that, but I thought for a bookmark, that's kind of private. And, what would Nichiren do? Sorry, silly moment. But I would be interested to hear what you have to say about it. All right, so let's continue with chapter 18. On a serious note. Thereupon the world-honored one, desiring to proclaim this teaching over again, spoke thus in verse. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. If anyone in an assembly, not this assembly, an assembly, right? You and your friend getting together are an assembly. In fact, I would like my own, just from what I've already told you or in videos before, if you take your presence at your Butsudan with the mandala as enacting the ceremony in the sky, that's an assembly. So, if anyone in an assembly hears this sutra, though only one stanza, well, what are we doing when we're chanting at our Butsudan? Okay? And joyfully proclaims it to others, and thus its teaching rolls on till it reaches the 50th hearer, the happiness obtained by this last, I will now explain. This is that 50th person, right? Your neighbor wants to know what you're doing. You invite him in. You chant with him for 15 minutes. How do you feel? Isn't that amazing? We can do this more often. Oh, you want to know more? Sure, I've got these videos. You can watch some of this guy. I've got some information. You're welcome to, let's talk, blah, blah, blah. And that neighbor, you only talk to her or him once every now and again. But you don't know their circle of friends and the friends of their circles of friends, all the way out to the 50th one. Woof, right? And that person hears Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. You have no control over that, except you do by radiating your life. Yeah? Anyway, suppose a great benefactor who provides for a countless throng during full 80 years. You see what he's repeating here, right? According to all their desires, then sees them decay and old. Right? For their whole lives, he takes care of this group of people, gives them anything they want. Gray-haired faces wrinkled, teeth sparse, and forms withered, and thinks their death is approaching. Well, I've taken care of them their whole lives. I've given them everything they could want, but I feel like, they're not long for this world. The wealthy person knows that all of that is just baubles. It's just samsaric entertainment. Can't I give them anything of real value? So then he decides, now, says he, I must teach them to obtain the fruits of the right way. Why'd you wait so long? Well, maybe he was timid, maybe he didn't think he could, but now that they're decrepit, let me give them this little morsel of hope. Doesn't really make sense, does it? But anyway, that's not the point of the story. Then, by tactful methods, he teaches them the true law of nirvana. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. And being old and decrepit, I'm sure if I was in my 90s, if I've ever make it that far, and somebody gave this to me, this teaching to me, I would still appreciate it. For my last whatever in the Saha world, right? All worlds are unstable, like water bubbles or will-o'-the-wisp. Do you all hasten to beget a spirit turning in disgust from them? All of them, on hearing this truth, attain the Buddha way, perfect in the 6 transcendent faculties, 3 clear views, and 8 emancipations. It's a little late for them to live their life fully, which is what Buddhism was all about in the first place, but at least they have this time remaining, right? Maybe ease their suffering. The 50th person who hears one verse and rejoices, right? This neighbor or friends of cousins of blah, 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 blah. This man's felicity surpasses that benefactor's beyond the power of comparison. Because he's not waiting until he's 90 years old. He's hearing it while he still has life to live. That's an important point, don't you think? If a hearer whose turn is so remote has such boundless facility, how much greater his who in the congregation first hears it with joyfulness. Right? We forget how to appreciate the immense depth and profundity of this tool that we are given. We take it for granted. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Oh yeah, I've heard that before. Really? Do you understand what that unlocks? Do you even have an idea of what it unlocks? Supreme, perfect enlightenment. Complete. Why would you hesitate? Only ignorance would make you hesitate. So get rid of your ignorance. That's what study is about. Getting samsara and the saha world out of the way. So you can fully experience this Buddha, this Tathagata-ness. Yeah? Let a man exhort but one person and bring him to listen to the law flower, saying, this sutra is profound and wonderful, hard to meet in thousands of myriads of kalpas. You won't just find this anywhere. Persuaded, he goes to listen and hears it but for a moment and realizes in that moment. The reward of such a persuader, let me now define. Age by age, his mouth will never suffer, his teeth not be gapped, yellow or black, nor his lips thick, awry or cracked, with no loathsome appearance. I have an annotation here. As hyperbole, these exhortations really push the point that to make even the slightest effort to raise another's aspiration toward hearing the teachings of the Lotus Dharma Sutra, provided that other takes further aspiration in learning the path for themselves, the reward gained is beyond comprehension. This is why Bodhisattva, Lotus Bodhisattva, is so critical to the full and complete experience of the Dharma, well, of Buddha-ness. His tongue neither dried up, black, nor shrunk, his nose high, long, and straight, his forehead broad, level, and upright, a joy for men to behold, no fetid breath from his mouth, but the scent of utpala flower ever exhaling from his lips. I have a little joke here. Evidently, dental hygiene was not widespread in the age of Shakyamuni Buddha. But you know, I jest. But a happy life should have humor in it, right? So I put that in there just as a reminder. Don't get overly serious about this. This isn't magic. This is a reference back to, and I talked about this last time, back to the Avatamsaka, where Shakyamuni himself was so bowled over by this enlightenment. If you read the Avatamsaka, it is so expressive and extolling every little fiber of being as nuanced and amazing, and the naming conventions, the abilities of the tongue, pages and pages of how wonderful the tongue becomes because of the purification of the senses. You become immersed in every little momentary instantiation of potential. It's all throughout the Avatamsaka, but it's so easy to miss. You can read it as anywhere from just relentless prose to unintelligible just word salad of excitement. Certainly you can glean from it this picture of beauty that is hard to imagine. But that's what Shakyamuni was talking about, is that when you purify the senses, you know things that you never even thought to know. And so this is a bit of a callback to those every little... Remember the skandhas and how they take you away from your potential Buddhahood because they're so entertaining in samsara? Well, enlightenment provides those skandhas exponential experiences you could never dream of in samsara. But, you know, he started telling people about this experience, and they were looking at him like, you know, like your Cocker Spaniel going, like my little poodle does all the time. I talk to her, and she just, really? She doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about. She's pretty smart, though. Or suppose one on purpose visits a monastery to hear the Lawflower Dharma Sutra, and hearing it but for a moment rejoices. Wow, this is amazing, right? Let me now tell you of his happiness. He will hereafter be born among universal realms of influence and men, have fine elephants, horses, and carriages, jeweled palanquins and litters, and ride in celestial aerial cars. If in the place of teaching he begs men to sit and hear the sutra, because of this felicity, he will attain the seat of chakra of a Brahmin, of a wheel-rolling king. How much more with him who single-minded hears and expounds its meaning and practices according to its teaching. His happiness is beyond limit. This is the shortest version of the Avatamsaka, or you may know it as the Kigan Sutra, the Flower Garland Sutra. It's the Avatamsaka. It's the first sermon, sermon. I got that word locked into me from ages past. It's his exposition of enlightenment. And here he's capturing it in a few sentences, no doubt as a reference, right? So I have a couple of paragraphs here to close out this chapter, reading through these merits listed as sensory and mental experiences, and continues into the next chapters. One is reminded of the hyperbole and beauty of the enlivened and greatly extended sensory experience first enumerated in the Avatamsaka Sutra. Shakyamuni's first teaching. The Avatamsaka was not taught for long, perhaps 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the records you read. It was far too exceptional in its content to be understood or useful to those few to whom Shakyamuni was addressing. But I mention it here to draw again the circle of Buddhist teaching, taught to the capacity of those who would listen, memorize, and study. In order to further their own minds, the ultimate teaching of the Myoho Renge Kyo is laced throughout all the teachings in various forms, but only crystallizes for this modern era and its vast innumerable delusions and obstacles. The further point in this chapter is that the disparity of one who takes immediate confidence to accept and understand the Lotus Sutra from the one that takes years to come to this realization is immediately full and perfect, and thereby more impressive than the student for whom the clarity and acceptance takes much time. Does that make sense? If you realize quickly and this happens a lot, to somebody who's newly exposed to Myoho Renge Kyo, they often, not always, but often are quite amazed. Whether they use that word or not, you can see it in them. They know something stunning has just happened. Some will hide. It'll scare them, right? Some of us will be excited for a good long time until whatever is in our karmic freight train starts to work against us and we'll stray. And that's sad and it's difficult. But I have met so many people, especially in our Sangha, who have come back to this teaching and now understand it better. I pride this Sangha on removing those obstacles that raise, through Dairaku Teno Mao, Mara. Yes, it infiltrates groups and organizations especially. But as independent practitioners of Nichiren's doctrine, we can clearly understand Shakyamuni's Lotus Sutra and re-engage with this amazing, singular teaching. This is yet another reference to those monks whom remained attached to the lesser vehicles of the three vehicles as compared to those who gleefully accepted and understand the Lotus teaching of the Buddha way at first presented. So, my exhortation to you for today, this was a short one. If you've come back to this teaching from previous whatever, try to remember your first days of chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, how exciting it was, how open-ended, right? Relive that excitement and don't concentrate on the misleading mud of Mara and all those demons. They're not worth your time. Chant with deep appreciation, focused concentration. Be Buddha-minded. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Once again, please take care of your health. Keep your practice strong. I'm so appreciative of everything you guys do to support this Sangha, right? The bookstore, the website, the podcast, patrons. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you all. I'll see you in the next one. Chapter 19. Oh, we're revving up now. Have a pleasant day. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.